Resilience is defined as the ability to adapt successfully in the face of stress and adversity, while perseverance is persistence in doing something despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. In terms of your job search, developing these closely linked but essential skills will not only enhance your self-confidence, but also create opportunities for you as you become more self-assured in taking risks. Tammy's passion for building tech solutions in emerging ecosystems led her to a career in chaos engineering. Tammy is a principal site reliability engineer at Gremlin and previously led site reliability engineering teams at Dropbox, responsible for databases and storage systems used by over 500 million customers. Prior to this, Tammy worked at DigitalOcean and one of Australia's largest banks in security engineering, product engineering, and infrastructure engineering. In her spare time, Tammy is also the co-founder of Girl Geek Academy, a movement to teach 1 million girls technical skills by 2025.
Hi everyone, my name's Tammy Bryant, and I'm speaking to you from Florida, Fort Lauderdale, which is on the east coast of the US. I'm Australian and I studied at QUT, so I'm a proud alumni, and I studied a Bachelor of IT and a Bachelor of Education, so a double degree. Today I'm here to talk to you about how you can really create your own amazing career that is really customized based on what you're interested in, because the dream job that you have totally might not exist right now. The job that I do definitely didn't exist when I was at QUT. It didn't even exist after I graduated. It actually started to be a real thing a few years after that. So I graduated in 2008. And then it wasn't until 2012 that my field that I work in now, chaos engineering, was invented. So how cool is that? It's like a really interesting way that you can think about your career. The job that you want might not even be something that you think of, but it could be your total dream job in 10, 20, 30 years even. For me, this is one of the most exciting things about working in tech as well. I absolutely love that things are always changing. Even when I look at new technologies right now, the cool stuff that's coming out, I get so excited by all of the different things that are being invented. I'm sure many of you have seen like some of the really cool like electric transport devices. That's really big right here in America. I just got myself a One Wheel, for example, which is an amazing electric skateboard. I've always loved skateboarding, but that's like a really cool technology that was only invented a few years ago that actually self-balances the board with one wheel in the middle, if you've seen it, and you can ride it really fast, like up to I think almost 50 kilometers an hour, which is pretty amazing. That just didn't exist in the past. So how did I get into the field of chaos engineering and actually end up creating this dream job for myself, which I'm now a principal site reliability engineer who gets to break systems on purpose, inject failure, and make things just much more reliable. So when I was studying at QUT, I actually decided I'd do a double degree. I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a high school teacher or if I could get a job writing code, building applications, working with technology. I've always been really interested in technology because I love the idea of actually being able to create things from scratch, being able to invent things. The idea of just having an idea and then being able to make it, to me, that's like really exciting. So I decided, all right, instead of just doing a Bachelor of Education by itself or a Bachelor of IT by itself, I would do a double degree, and that would allow me to be able to develop strengths in different areas. I also really love education. I love helping people learn. I love being able to like develop my communication skills. Something that I think is really exciting is being able to explore different interests that you have. You don't have to just try and put yourself into one little area or pigeonhole yourself into one small niche of something that you're interested in. I think actually what I've learned from having my career over the last 12 plus years working full-time in America is that people who have the most exciting, awesome careers actually have many different interests and hobbies, and they bring their full selves to work. If you can imagine this, if you've, traveled to different places, if you speak different languages, if you know how to do different types of things, like maybe some extreme sports, maybe you're great at at fashion. Maybe you're great at baking. Maybe you're great at playing a musical instrument. It could be totally anything, but you can take all of your learnings from those experiences and you can bring them into your career. So right now, what I get to do day to day at Gremlin after studying at QUT is to be able to use all of these different skills that I learned. So I work as an engineer, but I use a lot of the skills from my Bachelor of Education that I studied at QUT. I get to spend time building applications, making sure that systems are reliable. I work with customers all over the world, some of the most famous companies, airlines, banks, insurance companies, e-commerce, names that you've definitely heard of, Target, Walmart. These are folks that I get to chat to on a day-to-day basis and to understand how we can help make their systems more reliable. I also love being able to just use my technical knowledge. So I think something that's always excited me about being able to work in technology is that you can become an expert in different areas. You can really specialize in what interests you, and that's definitely encouraged. So for me, I was really interested in cloud computing, cloud infrastructure. I was also really interested in actually IoT devices. I like things like the Raspberry Pi. And so I can just say to my manager and my boss at work, oh, hey, like I'd like to be able to work on these different types of projects. And I've never, ever had a boss say no, which is pretty cool, like working in tech. I think in a lot of other industries, you might actually have to have a much more rigid job where, you know, you kind of have to do the same thing over and over. And it's definitely not like that in tech. Every day is different and it's much more based on what you would like to do. So each day I come into work in the morning, I write down my goals for what I'd like to get done that day. And usually those goals are based off ideas that I pitched to my manager earlier on. So I might have said to him, hey, like, I would like to be able to learn about this specific type of database. Can I spend like a few weeks focusing on that? And he'll be like, yep, sounds good. Like, how are you going to deliver your learnings of that work that you did? And then we'll come to an agreement on that. And so to me, that's much more exciting, being able to like choose your own path. Something else that I did before I moved to America was actually create my very own job title. So this might sound like, you know, wow, you can actually do that. And I was pretty surprised myself too. But when I was working at the National Australia Bank in Melbourne, I worked there for 6 years as an engineer. I just thought that there was a lot of areas that we weren't focused on that we should be focused on. So back then, actually, the National Australia Bank had not created a mobile app. So, you know, I feel like I'm not even that old, but I was definitely working at the National Australia Bank before they had a mobile app. And I just thought we need to have a mobile app. Like that's something that I'd like to work on. So I pitched that and I was allowed to work on it. So I was one of the first ever engineers to build a mobile app for the National Australia Bank. Then I also said to them, hey, like I think we need better data analytics because it's important to know like what people are doing on our websites and on our mobile apps. So I actually got to work on that project for the first time ever too. So I rolled out analytics. And now if you think about the world of data science and analytics, that's really common and well known. But I got to work on that for the first time ever at the National Australia Bank. And it was just because I pitched it. I saw articles about it. I was reading about it on Twitter. I was seeing videos on YouTube. That's another way that I love to learn. And I just would present that to my boss and say, hey, I'd love to focus some time on this. What do you think about it? So one of my biggest tips for having a great career in tech is to just follow your own passions and your interests and get really comfortable with saying, like, this is what I'd like to work on. Pitch those ideas to people. So I was once given this amazing advice where my manager said to me, pretend that I'm a VC, a venture capitalist, and pitch to me what you would like to work on, how much time it's going to take you, if it's just going to be you or if you need additional headcount to work alongside you. I pitched my idea to him and then he was like, yep, you can work on this. Come and do that project for 1 year. And I actually got $1 million to be able to work on it, which was pretty amazing. It was me working alongside 3 other amazing women at the National Australia Bank. And like looking back, that just seems unbelievable that I was able to do that. And I was only in my early 20s at the time. So I'd only just graduated from QT maybe 4 years or 3.5 years before that. And I was already able to have $1 million budget. That's pretty cool. So, you know, don't think I don't know anything or I don't know enough or, you know, I don't feel confident that I can do this. What you bring to the organization that you choose to work at is all of your expertise, all of your hobbies, your passions, your interests, whatever things you've learned about, whatever things you've tried to do in your spare time. Say if you've been a tutor, or if you've hacked around with, say, like a Raspberry Pi for fun, or if you've learned a lot about like self-driving cars just because you're interested in it. Like, you can work at Tesla. Like, I'm telling you, don't feel like you can't, because if you want to, you can totally make it happen. I have lots of friends that have worked at Tesla. They just applied on the website. They tried to add different people that worked at Tesla on LinkedIn, and they got jobs at Tesla. So it's definitely possible. If you can't get a job at Tesla, you can work at another self-driving car company like Cruise in San Francisco. So that's something really important to remember, is like Tesla's probably not going to know that you exist in Australia, you're living in Queensland, you are interested in self-driving cars. Like, they don't know all of that. So it's really important to say, hey, here I am. This is what I'm keen to do. I'd like to do this. Can I come and work with you? It would be really cool. And the other thing that I think is important to remember, I realized this while I was studying at QUT, is that not everyone wants to do the same stuff as me. Like, I was really interested in chaos engineering, in making systems more reliable, and in being able to just build really large scale systems. But not everyone wants to do that. Other people are really interested in data science, or they're interested in like medical tech, or they're interested in self-driving cars, so you're not actually competing with tons of people if you have a specialty area that you like to focus on. So my biggest tip there is just go for it. Like, get clear on being able to tell people what you like, what you enjoy, why you like it. I also really recommend doing things like actually creating your own YouTube channel to share videos about your interests. I have my own YouTube channel that I love to post little videos on. I also have a Twitter. Definitely go create your LinkedIn account like right now so that you can start networking. Add me. I'm happy to be one of your first professional LinkedIn folks that you're able to connect with. Because the important thing with LinkedIn too, which, I didn't know this while I was at university, is that it's easier to add people if you have more connections initially. So you need to connect with great people, and then that opens up more second connections, is what it's called on LinkedIn. So there's a lot of little career tips there that are just going to help give you a head start. And then you can post things that you're learning and interested in, articles to LinkedIn, and that will create opportunities for you to work at your dream company in the future. So I've really enjoyed being able to come here and chat with you today. Thank you so much for just coming along, being interested. I really hope that you take the time to think through like how you can make an impact in STEM. Like, I can't wait to see what you do. I can't wait to see you bring your full self and all of your interests and hobbies and merge that with technology to see what you create. Thank you.
Welcome, Tammy, and thank you very much for joining us in this conversation today. Over the last decade, we've seen any number of jobs emerge, whether it's data scientists, which are tasked with making sense of big data, machine learning and artificial intelligence, or even mobile app developers. What's the best way, do you think, to prepare or pitch yourself for a job that doesn't actually exist yet?
Because the job that you want might not exist, what I really recommend sharing with others is your personal skill set and also what your interests are and your aspirations. So it's actually really important to be self-reflective. I definitely recommend that you should think through like, what interests you? What do you like? Like, what are your hobbies? What do you enjoy doing in your spare time? I know often people always say that like, you should follow your passion, because if you do what your passion is, you'll never really work a day in your life. And I actually totally believe that. Like, I feel like I have a job that is a dream job. I get to just do whatever I enjoy every day. I can craft my own roadmap for like an entire year of what I want to work on, and then just get buy-in and feedback from the folks that I work with. I can choose who I work with. I can create an amazing team. I can hire great people to work with me. So I think about it like that. Like, think it's not just you working by yourself, having to, completely like figure out what box can I fit in. It's all about figuring out what are the different types of opportunities that you'd like to take on. What areas would you like to just explore and learn more about? So yeah, just give that a go.
Fantastic, Tammy. We often hear that we learn the most from experiences where things don't turn out the way that we'd hoped or planned. And I'm really sure, as a site reliability engineer for over 500 million users, you've experienced times when things didn't turn out to plan. So perhaps could you share with us some of the things that you might have learned when that kind of thing happens?
So I really liked your intro, Troy, where you explained the idea of resilience and perseverance. So one of my biggest failures actually was when I wanted to first work in America. So I asked my mentor at the time, how do I get a job in America? He said, just apply online, figure out what company you want to work at, just go to their careers website and then put in your application. So I did that, and they wrote back and said to me, we're not going to hire an Australian. It's like, what? What do you mean you're not going to hire an Australian? Like, I wasn't expecting that of any answer. It's like, what do you have against Australians? And so I wrote back to the recruiter and I said, well, I did some research and I actually see that you've already hired one Australian. So I feel like you should let me have an interview. How come you hired him, but you won't interview me? And he was really amazed that I'd actually gone to the effort of researching who worked at the company. I'd looked them up on LinkedIn. I'd looked through all of the employees because you can do that on LinkedIn. It's actually super powerful. And then I wrote back and I gave his name. And that did get me an interview. So then I was able to do the technical test. I passed it. I then did a face-to-face interview. The other thing that I did too was I talked to my mentor and I said, hey, like I applied to work at this company. I did what you said, but they said they wouldn't hire me because I'm Australian. So he said, actually, you know what? I'm an advisor to that company. I had no idea that he was one of their advisors. And so he also emailed their CEO at the same time and said, like, you'd be crazy not to hire Tammy. You need to hire her. And then my goal was to get a job within 6 months that I could, move to America from Australia. And it happened within like 2 months, something like that. It just felt like it was so fast. I closed my eyes and I was already living in New York City and just having an amazing time. So that was like a really interesting failure that I definitely was resilient. I didn't give up. I persevered. I also tried to just be creative and think outside the box. I like leaned on other people to help me out. I asked my mentors for advice. My mentor was actually one of my past bosses at the National Australia Bank when I worked as a security engineer, and he was living in America at the time. So that's one story there related to career. In terms of, just day-to-day work, I was actually the incident on call when I was working at Dropbox when Amazon had its huge outage. So Amazon was down for 5 hours one day, their storage service, and we were using that at the time. And I was responsible for bringing it back up, not just for my team, but for all Dropbox customers, for every single service at Dropbox. So it's called Incident Manager on Call. And I was managing a team of probably like 60, 70 people, as well as communicating with the comms team, the sales team, the press team. These customer tickets come in. So it was like a really stressful experience, but I'm actually fine in stressful experiences. I thrive in them. I love extreme sports. And this is where it really comes back to like figuring out what you like to do in your spare time, because I love snowboarding, skateboarding, surfing. I love like extreme sports. It makes me perfect for someone to throw into like a high stress situation. I'll just have fun and I'll be able to like think on my feet. I like get a lot of adrenaline working in these like tough environments. And I was able to resolve that incident really quickly. And there were some difficult things that I had to navigate. For example, people thought that their Dropbox files were being deleted during the incident, but they weren't. It was actually just because Dropbox thumbnails weren't working because the service was broken. But I was able to debug that, figure it out, and then work with the team to get it fixed really quickly within like an hour. So we recovered before Amazon's outage actually finished, which I think we were one of the only companies in the world to be able to do that. I don't know any other company that did that. So that felt pretty amazing at the time as well. Everyone was really happy.
We know that broadly in the STEM disciplines, women are underrepresented. As a woman who has made a successful career in STEM, what advice do you have for girls who might be considering a career in STEM?
So this is something that I've cared about for a really long time. While I was studying at QUT, actually our head of school, Ruth Christie, she invited me to work at QUT part-time. So I actually worked on the Go Girl, Go for IT program. and it was to encourage high school girls to study IT at university. And I love that program. It was fun to be able to help everybody learn about tech and what you could do if you studied tech in the future. And the other thing, though, I was doing a Bachelor of Education and my Bachelor of IT together as a double degree. And I remember saying to Ruth, she asked me one day, like, why do you want to be a high school teacher? And I said, because I love helping people. And I also like that you get a lot of holidays. And like Ruth thought it was so funny. She was like, well, Tammy, if you work in tech, not only will you get holidays, because do you know that American startups have unlimited vacation? Like this is a real thing. You actually have unlimited vacation time. And then the other thing they have too is that you can work from anywhere. So I work from home, I can work from a co-working space, from a cafe, and I can work the hours that I prefer. So sometimes I've decided I'd like to start working at midday and then finish at 8 p.m. That's okay. Or I can start working at 9 and finish at 5, or I can start earlier. Like it's really flexible, and you don't need to ask anyone for permission to change your schedule, because really, like when you're working in a team, often a lot of the work you can do in a time that suits you. People are very accommodating, so you can just make sure that they have meetings when it works for you. I work with so many folks who take their kids to school drop off and then go and pick their kids up. And I think that that's really cool that it is so flexible. So when I spoke to Ruth about that, she was just like, you know, if you want a flexible job, like if you compare it to being a high school teacher, you have to be teaching kids, you know, from 9 to 3. Like you can't really just like pop out and get coffee in the middle of class, right? But you can do that when you work in tech. So yeah, she totally actually changed how I thought about things. And I was just like, this is an amazing, flexible career. And I love that. And then the other thing he said to me was, you can help people in so many ways when you work in tech. You could work in medical tech. You could do nonprofit work where you're building systems online to help reach people all over the world. At Dropbox, I really love that we were making information accessible. We actually help with lots of things, like lawyers are actually using Dropbox to present cases in court. Musicians use Dropbox to make their albums for their music. So like some of my favorite bands use Dropbox. So when I thought about it like that, I was like, oh, this actually is cool. Like I'll help people and I'll have a flexible job. And I also love the idea that it was scalable. So I thought, like, if I'm a high school teacher, I can only maybe teach 30 students, you know, in my classroom at one time. And maybe I'll have like 5 or 6 classes that I teach in a year. So it's not tons of students for a high school teacher. Whereas if I could teach, you know, maybe in my spare time via YouTube while I'm working as an engineer, that's huge. I could maybe reach millions of people by sharing my technical skills. So yeah, I really love that. Like, I think if there's anything you're concerned about with, you know, being a woman in tech and you're not sure about if it matches your needs, like I'll definitely say just like ask folks around you, like, you know, reach out. You can drop me a message or an email on LinkedIn. Happy to do it. Reach out to the QT team and like tell them what your concerns are so they can like explain to you how things could actually be. Because like I had no idea we could get unlimited vacation. That's actually a pretty cool perk.
We often hear, Tammy, about the high demand for technical skills in the jobs of tomorrow, and they're going to be even in higher demand as we go forward. Have you seen a consequence of skills shortages in the kind of workplaces that you've been in?
Yes, there's a huge skill shortage right now, Troy. It's pretty wild. Like in America, I probably get about 6 or 7 emails and messages from recruiters a day. It wasn't like that before. So there's definitely a huge demand. And the other thing too is they actually put in there what salary you could get. And it blows my mind, like the types of salaries that you could earn. The thing that you realize after a while of working in tech is it's not all about the salary, because I think they say if you earn over $70,000 a year, you know, you're not going to be that much happier the more money that you earn. So it's more about the team that you work with, the mission that you're working on together, what skills you're able to learn. So I really focus on that, like the great people that you get to work alongside. But it is pretty amazing to just see how many jobs there are. So if you're, you know, thinking, oh, there's not going to be jobs in tech, there are so many jobs in tech. The other thing too is there's not that many people that are experienced in technology. And that's because technology is so new. So a lot of people don't know how to be an engineer with cloud infrastructure. So being able to build applications on the cloud, that's very new. A lot of engineers that are in the workplace don't know how to do data science or analytics or make a self-driving car. these are things that just aren't things that folks know right now. So I always like to think back to that, you can get into a new field in tech. So say if it's, maybe medical tech, some type of new area. I know a lot of people are doing really interesting stuff right now with actually COVID ventilators. So that's like a whole new area that people are building these machines with really cheap hardware, like Raspberry Pi. There's some interesting stuff happening there. So you can get in there and you can be one of the first to help make this happen. So you're not competing with other people because there just aren't people to compete with. There's just so many things we need to do. So yeah, that's what I would say there. I have just, there's so many opportunities. It's about what do you want to do? You can really get to pick and choose.
Tammy, given what you've learned about forging a successful career in tech, if you were looking back at yourself in high school, what advice would you have for that younger Tammy as she prepares for her future?
Yeah, I love that question so much because, one of my favorite subjects was computers. And I was always asking the teacher, could I get extra work because I would finish everything on time? And she let me do that, which was cool. She also let me do other stuff she'd be like, well, what do you want to work on? I'm like, well, I want to learn about video actually and like editing video. And that's a super useful skill right now where so much of what we do is online. And she would let me take my skateboard outside and actually film videos during school, that's a pretty cool teacher. But I just think I would say to my younger self, like, yeah, follow your passions, like incorporate your interests into your work, into your career. Don't worry about, I don't know, any type of like specific thing that you think you need to be or need to do, because what this whole event is about today is like what your dream job is. It might not exist today. It might not exist in 10 years, but then like your dream job could really be created by you. That's the whole thing. You can create a whole new field in technology. Like that's interesting, right? Chaos engineering was created by a guy called Bruce Wong. Like I think it would be so cool if I could say, I created the field of chaos engineering. My name's Tammy. But you can do that. So yeah, I just think like the sky's the limit. Don't feel like you're not an expert because nobody's an expert in tech, like in the newer fields. Like maybe in some of the older things, like if you've heard of mainframes, there's a lot of experts there. But if you just pick those new areas and incorporate your hobbies as a young person, like when you're in high school, that's cool. The other thing too is like I just had a ton of fun on the weekends. Like I tried to learn as many skills as I could. I like hung out with my friends. We built web pages together. We kind of did like mini hackathons together for fun. We made video games for fun. We played a lot of video games. Like my husband, he actually works as a video game developer. Like how cool is that as a job? He did that for 12 years and made some hit games. So these careers are all possible. Like he studied computer science as well and learned how to code. And then that helped him get a job, his dream job. So yeah, I just think it's cool. Explore whatever you want to explore.
Thank you very much, Tammy. It's just been so fantastic to talk to you today. You've offered some really fantastic advice for people about taking ownership of their future careers. So thank you for your time and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Troy. Bye, everyone. See you soon.